Hello there. Welcome back to TML Weekly. This is our season finale of season two. We've been kind of a little bit sporadic this season. Life gets in the way. We're all busy. We've got, families, and we're doing this and doing that. But we're happy to be back. We're going to try to get a little bit more regular of a schedule next year and kind of go from there. But so much to unpack. First of all, as always, thanks to our sponsors, Bjorn Hockey and Don Cherries, now open in Perry Sound. I've seen some video and pictures of this new facility. It's like a playground for adults. So if you're in the Muskoka Perry Sound area, drop in, say hi to the gang, and support Don Cherries, who has graciously supported us for a few years now. So usually. Last couple of years, right around now, we're mad, we're upset. Remember, I binge drank that was like everything in the house at the end of Game 7 against Florida last year. That didn't happen. We've had a month, 6 weeks, even more. Really, we knew that there wasn't going to be a playoff team by the time the deadline was around. So. It's a different conversation to wrap up this season than it has been, okay? It's a different conversation, but it's the same, right? What's going to happen? How is this going to be fixed? The problem now isn't how do they win a round or how do they get out of the second round and into the conference final. It's how to get back in the playoffs in this Eastern Conference because it's insane. But before we get to that, we've got a whole agenda, folks.
Big announcement, though. We got a big announcement, Johnny. Big announcement.
Wow. I one of the reasons why we didn't have the availability, certainly on my side, was Jack. And everybody here knows Jack. He comes on and he's a regular contributor, my son. And so Jack played U13 AAA for the Halifax Hawks. Real good program right here in Halifax. They got a great feeder system into the Halifax McDonald's, who were runners up at the TELUS Cup. So it all kind of filters in, and it's a real good level of hockey. Jack's a first year, so an underage at this level. Not underage, but it's a 2-year age group out here. So Jack's a first year, and his Hawks team had a tremendous regular season. They had a chance in the last night of the season down in Yarmouth with a win to win first overall. Didn't, came up short, but ended up second. Swept their first round opponent, earned their way to provincials. Didn't play their best hockey at provincials. It was down in the valley near Acadia University for you people across the country. It's maybe about an hour from Halifax. So we go down there for the provincials. The 8 seed and host, the 8 seed in our league and host Valley Jets. Victorious on home ice. Played great. Deserved the provincial title. But the Halifax Hawks in their back pocket had won the right to host Atlantics this year. So Atlantics is a host team. Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and PEI provincial champions. 5-team, round robin. 1 plays 2 for the gold, 3 plays 4 for the bronze, no semis, quarters, anything like that. So Halifax comes out. We're at home here. We're at the brand new Ulton Stanish Center at Dalhousie University. Beautiful facility. We go out first game, play PEI, play a real strong game. I think it was 3-1, and ended up winning that one. So that was a real strong Kings County Kings team out of Eastern PEI. So game 2, we get Newfoundland. So it was the Eastern Knights from St. John's, Newfoundland. We beat them 2-0. So now you're 2-0, and you get to avenge your loss in provincials against the Valley on Friday night, right? Winner of that game goes directly to the final. Loser still has to kind of maybe win to get into a bronze medal match. Halifax wins it. Last couple minutes, score on the power play. Hang on. Valley's throwing everything at the kids. So anyway, that puts Halifax in the final. They play Moncton the next day, New Brunswick provincial champ. And Moncton, real good team. Beats us 4-1, I believe. Good game, all credit to them. So now the kids go. There's a nice banquet. They do an all-star team and MVP and all that kind of stuff down at a nice hotel downtown Halifax. Kids dress up. It was a real good event for them, and we got to get ready for the final. So we're playing that Moncton team that beat us, the only team that beat us, and it's Atlantic final, big deal. They end up scoring 2 in the first, Moncton. So it's 2-0. Go through the second, still 2-0. Right? They're very well coached, very structured. We're going after them. They're playing the right way, both teams. Halifax gets on the board early in the third. So now it's 2-1. Okay. Nail biter. Huge crowd, lots of support, lots of families from the area with kids at different levels. And they're all buddies, but one of Jack's good buddies, Kalen Katsopoulos. You'll recognize that name. His dad, Mike's from Toronto, and Kalen's just a real nice hockey player, real nice kid, great family. Kalen ties it up with 9 seconds left in the third period. Okay. Moncton Lynx were 9 seconds away from Atlantic title.
Crazy.
Tie it up, 9 seconds left. The way the format works is you immediately do a 5-minute 3-on-3. And then if it goes the 5 minutes, then there's a flood, and then you come back out, and it's 20-minute 3-on-3s until it's over. So, the whole rink's nervous. We can't believe we tied it up. They come out back and forth, lots of chances in the first overtime, goes 5 minutes, nobody gets it. Get into the second overtime period, about a minute in. Halifax gets a 2-on-1. Henry Udall passes over to Rowan McDougall. Okay, 2 wonderful, wonderful young hockey players. Rowan, Henry passes it to Rowan. It was kind of in his skates a little bit. Rowan made a real good heads-up play, kicked it up, shoots it back over to the right side, kind of goes off the goalie. Henry bangs it in. The place goes nuts. The Halifax Hawks win the Atlantic Championship. So I'm going to throw a picture up here of the final kind of go here. Should come up there. So that's the kids and their coaches. Tremendous season. As you know, Johnny, I've been involved in the sport for a lot of years. I don't think I've ever had an experience as a player or a coach that is even close to the season that we had. And something has to be said for the coaches. We had non-parent coaching staff, which is great at the Pee Wee level. We had an engaged group of parents. The parents liked each other. The kids liked each other. It wasn't there wasn't that typical kind of some rivalries and things that just didn't happen. The coaches set a culture and a accountability within the group that the kids played for each other. They played the right way. They played hard, and they played as a team. And that's how you win. We'll get into that a little later when we talk about what the show's about, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But congratulations to Jack and his teammates.
Absolutely, shout out, boys.
It was special, and I told Jack kind of through the ride of provincials and Atlantics. I said, enjoy this, right? You don't get here. This doesn't happen, right? This doesn't happen every year. Everything's got to fall in the right way. You got to have the right group. You got to have the right leadership. And they did. It was a tremendous group of young men. And couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. And because Jack was a first year, he gets to do it again next year in the same league. So he's pretty pumped, to be kind of a veteran player next year and help, bring the younger guys in, just like the older guys did for him this year. So Halifax Hawks, first Atlantic Canadian team, first Halifax Hawks team since I believe 2008. And one of the Barron brothers was on that group, I believe. Morgan, I think, the one from Winnipeg. Justin played in the organization as well with the Hawks, but he was a few years after that. So anyway, let's get into the Leafs. One more quick thing, non-Leaf related. Jack and I popped over. We saw a little bit of the Centennial Cup in Summerside. What good hockey. Jerry Gallant's been around. Dougie McLean's going to be there, 2 Summerside guys. So here's where it stands right now. Quebec and Manitoba those two teams, one buys right to the semifinals, and there's two quarterfinals happening today. Toronto Patriots won, and now an all East Coast quarterfinal tonight. Truro and Summerside, two real good hockey clubs, and see who gets to go to the semi. So tune in. I think it's on Sunday on TSN, the Centennial Cup final from the Summerside.
Johnny,
PEI.
I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the Kitchener Rangers.
We're going to talk about that guy. There's a coach
Outside. I didn't say it, but outside of the I got Atlantic Canada. I got to bring it back home for the boys over here. Listen, this Kitchener Rangers team, if you haven't seen them play,
what's the coach's name? He's a Finnish guy, I know.
You're going to ask me, I know.
Yeah. Look it up. We'll get back to it because we're going to talk about all the coaching and what's out there and what the group needs and what the group is. Right? Let's face it.
Well,
we don't know today. I don't know who's going to be there. So let's talk about the season. Kind of, we haven't been on since the Leafs.
The Olympics. It was around the Olympics, I think.
Yeah, I think we really. Yeah, honestly, it was the Olympics, and the Olympics kind of. I don't want to say changed the power shift. A lot of guys came out of the Olympics. The American guys came out hot. They just won. Some of them, like Quinn Hughes, has been tremendous. Brady wasn't very good. Matthews got hurt as soon as he got back, so he was done. But the last part of the Eastern Conference, I've never seen anything like this before.
Nosedive.
At one point, with about 5 games left in the National Hockey League season, not one team in the Pacific Division would have been in the playoffs in the East. Like, not a wild card team.
Bananas.
I don't know if it ended like that, but that's kind of, that's odd. But we knew, John, we talked about the Buffaloes. We talked about the Montreals. We talked about the Ottawas. They're building the Detroit. There's another team that, nobody thought Boston would be in this year.
And listen,
right?
if you watch the Keith Pelly press conference, we all knew this, except Keith didn't. I mean, we'll get to that in a minute. But like the irony, I remember watching that conference, and I went or that press conference with Pelly, and I kind of thought, I heard him pumping the tires of all these picks and all these prospects from the other organizations, and I was going like, and you didn't see that coming. I feel like somebody slipped him. Here's a couple of prospects from each organization. Name them, and you're going to be okay.
But he could get tampering too. He shouldn't be talking about specific players on other teams that help them win.
I mean,
right?
Listen, we'll get to Keith Pelly in a minute, but yeah, no, listen.
That's on our list here when we get into the front office. But I think this year was an anomaly. Okay, if you looked at predictions, and I think we made some at the beginning of the year, nobody did not have Florida and Toronto in the playoffs. Let's face it.
Correct.
One of them was winning the division. The other one was going to play Tampa in the first round. It's been like that, right? Boston wasn't supposed to be part of it. Pittsburgh Penguins also were not supposed to be part of it. So you got to give some credit to Mr. Dubas, right?
Well, listen, Kyle Dubas is unlike any general manager in the league. He can get a team to the playoffs and the first round, bar none, every year. Just don't ask him to do anything else after that.
Yeah, but that's it's not on him anymore, right? At the end of the day, if you can get in, you can win, but you got to do the right things or get the bounces, stay healthy. I wouldn't mind having a guy in charge, and at the end, we all threw him under the bus as we do, and when changes are made. But at the end of the day, he had the right group to, you'd think, or was it coaching? Was it the group? We're going to get into that for sure when we talk about what's coming up. But I think it's an anomaly. I wouldn't, part of me wants to blow it up. We've talked about it offline here. Part of me thinks, okay, and that's still on the table. I'm not completely sold that the core need, but we could also bring in the right couple of guys and the right coach, and this team could be right there. what's the right decision. I think it's going to be based on analytics, knowing what John Chayka is all about. But we'll get into John Chayka. It was a year that nothing really went their way.
You know what,
right?
though? I looked at this year, and this year was amongst the most frustrating for me. And strictly because you could not independently watch this team like night in and night out. And listen, I'm not saying that everybody pays attention to the Leafs and follows the Leafs the same way that we do. I'm not saying that everybody watches the games with the same viewpoint or pays attention to little details in the game. But if you looked at this team, there were moments. You can go back to when we had the beginning of the season. We fired the power play guy. We fired Savard. We brought in, and we had a little bit of a bump, and then we kind of went on a bit of a streak, and I felt like we were fantastic, and we had a little something. But listen, we got to be honest with what we are. We had Matthias Michelli and Max Domi on the first line. We got to be honest about it. And then, you know what? We also got to be honest with, what our defense is. We have, my opinion, we've got 4s and 5s, maybe a 3, but a team of 4s and 5s. And you know what? The problem with that is everybody's overexposed. And you start asking guys like Simone Benoit and, OEL at his age to play.
He was the best defenseman on the team, OEL.
But follow me, though, John. He's 193 years old.
Yeah.
And so if this was OEL a la Vancouver time, you could get away with that kind of stuff. OEL at his age can't be playing the minutes he's playing. So what happens is you put guys like Benoit, you put guys like OEL, they're overexposed playing too many minutes against better talent. And unfortunately, that is what it is. Then when you multiply that with 2 goalies who potentially are really good. I don't think in spots that you could say that Stolarz wasn't very good or that Wall wasn't very good, but they're made of glass and you can't count on them. And John, as a pro athlete, the number one thing that you can be to your team is available. That is the most important thing that you can be as an athlete, is be available to your team to be able to play and play at your best. We don't have that. And so, if we're being honest about what this season was and where the frustration, I think, lied for a lot of people, was when we looked at the team as fans, you could look at this team and go, this is not a roster that's constructed properly. And yet, what changed throughout the season? What moves were made? Where did we go? You know what? You know what our big moves were? Our big moves were to sit Easton Cowan.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Those that I think is what was frustrating to me. People could look at this team objectively and see the flaws and see what was wrong. And it was like management was so far above. They didn't see it, didn't want to see it, maybe didn't pay enough attention. But that to me was the frustrating point. If we're all going to be honest about what we are, no team with Matthias Michelli and Max Domi on the first line is winning anything.
I'm less about the makeup of the team and more about, I think, everywhere from Brad Terreliving to your Marley Scratches on a nightly basis got really comfortable over the last 8-10 years. Okay. They weren't clawing, fighting for play. I think the group, Marner left. Everybody's like, who cares? He's the problem. We're going to be fine. They brought in some grit to make up. All those guys need to do is get 33 points each, and we got didn't work. Okay.
It didn't get 15.
And the urgency wasn't there. This team needed to win hockey games in November, unlike the teams prior that it really didn't matter because once they got going into Christmas in the second half, they're going to win 4 out of 5, and they're going to be, they're not a wild card team. They're going to be in. Teams are getting better. Okay, the Leafs didn't get better. Arguably, if you watch what Mitchell Marner's doing in Vegas right now, they got substantially worse. And then they didn't have the urgency to either make changes from the top, okay, have their players come out of their comfort zone a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to take this over here. Matthews would be one. I've said it since he came in at his size. There was opportunities this year that he could have shown. And there was times that he was very physical. He was the most physical player, right? Which
is a problem in and of itself.
Yeah, we don't want him to lead the team in hits, but I do want him to, be active physically, and that just wasn't consistent enough. He didn't score goals, right? The team just floundered. It wasn't goaltending. I don't even believe it was defense. It was the sum of all parts.
Correct.
Right?
Which I go back to.
I don't think Craig Berube did a very good job, and I'm a big Craig Berube fan. Craig Berube's body language in the second half of the year was embarrassing.
Defeated.
He just looked like he had given up, right?
John,
well, when you're leading a group and you're giving up, they're going to give up.
And John, comments post game interviews where you're getting asked legitimate questions and you're flipping the media off and saying things like, I don't know, talk to them. Yeah. I don't know, man. That is bush league, minor league, like nonsense. And listen, there is no one on the planet who hated Sheldon Keefe more than I did. He never did that. Never. Right. Yeah. So I at a certain point, and again, I will go back to, and this, I'm a proponent of Craig Berube. I do not think Craig Berube is a bad coach. I really don't. What I do go back to though, and I'll maintain this till the day I die, is this was terrible roster construction. This was for all the people that say, the difference is, we got rid of Marner and then we tanked. The difference is we got rid of Marner and we spent Mitch Marner's money on Dakota Joshua, who played 19 games and was useless in 18 of them, on Matthias Michelli, who, aside from sounding like I'd like to have dinner with him at an Italian restaurant, had uselessness all season. And Nick Waugh, who, what is the great thing we can say about Nick Waugh's tenure? He's turned into a first-round pick next year.
Yeah. Like that, and you can look at it like that. You got a first rounder for Marner.
Yeah. And so when you look at it, and again, I go back to, we don't have a 1A defenseman. We probably don't even have a 2A defenseman in the lineup. If we're going to be honest about it, at a certain point, when do you hold the coach accountable for playing with spare parts? Now, listen.
Yep.
I am not going to I'm not going to tell you that I think Craig Berube took the spare parts and got the best out of this team. I don't think that. And I think possibly the biggest indictment of a Craig Berube coach team was watching the response when Matthews got hit by Gudas.
Yeah.
That to me.
Oh, that was a microcosm of this group for 10 years.
Done. Unforgivable. It's unforgivable. And I go back to when, do you remember when we played Boston? And I'm going back maybe 3 years, and Liljegren got ran in the corner by Marchand. And you know what? Cassidy, who is available, left him on the ice to take the face off and basically said, I dare you, come at me. And no one did a damn thing. Yeah. And so, again.
And that runs right through your group, right?
100% it does.
Yeah.
100%.
So we have a lot to talk about, and I'm gonna try to, you and I aren't the easiest guys to keep on track, but we've said our piece. At the end of the day, it was
not good.
A disaster. Okay. There's obviously been repercussions of that disaster that we're going to get into in our next segment. But before we get into what's happened to the Toronto Maple Leafs since, and we're going to get into that. Let's just talk briefly about the playoffs and what we've seen. So, Colorado.
When they're on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a little concerned about McCarr's health, but that's going to be a tough team to beat in a 7-game series. I mean, they got 2 goalies that they can go to if they need. Their goaltending hasn't even been sensational, and they've lost 1 game.
Listen,
right? Like McKinnon's an absolute horse, as you'd expect. They're going to be tough. Vegas will give them quite a bit. I think if Mark Stone isn't in the lineup, it's going to be a very short series. He's a very key player on that team. Mark Stone's there 6. I still say Colorado. But just to talk about, Edmonton, I mean, the guys that do the Edmonton show are having the same kind of show we are.
Hey, and listen,
it's almost. I've got Edmonton on our list to talk about.
Okay, so and just for if you're watching us now and you didn't see the news today, Knobloch is out in Edmonton.
Yeah,
he's done.
Shameful the way that was handled, but that's on the list. We'll get to that. Anaheim, very pleased with the
How do you not love what Anaheim is doing? How do you not love? And you know what, John?
San Jose is going to be there next year. That Macklin Celebrini's the real deal, right? Wearing the C and Sidney Crosby wearing an A. And trust me, folks, that was Sidney's decision.
100%.
He showed up and they said, "Hey, you know what? Macklin Celebrini would have went up and said, I'll personally take the C off, and we're so happy that you came to join us here in this tournament." And
Sid, the torch.
Sid did remember the commercial with Howe, Lemieux, and Gretzky on the pond, and it was Bure, Lindros, 4 young guys, Jagger, and
Nolan. Was Owen Nolan in there?
No, I think maybe Pronger. No, it was Paul Kariya. Paul Kariya. Yeah. And they said, "It's your turn now, boys." That was Sydney, right?
First class.
Macklin Celebrini is the real deal. We had a couple of players emerge in this league right now this year.
Hold on, but before we go any further, let's go back to the first show. And at the beginning of the season, who picked Macklin Celebrini to be the breakout guy in the league?
I think you did.
I think I did too. I just thought I'd throw it out there. No, 100%.
And we'd be remiss, even though they didn't make the playoffs. Matthew Schaefer.
Oh,
I don't know if I'm picking anybody else in the league. If you say all players in the league right now available, you start with one and you build a franchise around this one player. It may be Matthew Schaefer.
And listen, if you have not watched the New York Islanders, and there's every reason for you not to watch the New York Islanders, holy cow. This kid, I believe he was unanimous in the rookie.
First time. Yeah.
Right?
There's usually one idiot that votes for something.
There's always one idiot. Derek Jeter, I think, didn't even get in, as a first ballot unanimous. Matthew Schaefer, and the kid, if you watch the kid on interviews, he loves his mom. He loves
it's a tremendous story.
He is a first class all the way. Kids, if you're looking to model yourself and be like somebody, that is the guy that you want to follow. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff.
He got Braden Shen to waive his no trade. Braden Shen could have gone anywhere in the league. He wanted to go to the New York Islanders to play with this kid.
The kid is the real deal.
That's how much clout he's got.
I love John. I love him.
Yeah, 100%.
Listen,
tremendous. He's gonna. New York Islanders are going to be in very good shape for a very long time with that kid. Right, he's the type of kid that and he's like a better person than he is a player, which is hard 100%. To believe. And he's one of those, we've got some real high end defensemen, obviously, in Makar and Hughes and Werenski and Dahlin. It maybe Dahlin does it in both ends. There's a reason why everybody in the league wants to kill him. How many times has Dahlin got assaulted this season? Cross-checked in the face, punched, tackled from it, almost Bertuzzi'd him at one point.
Buffalo's a great story. Love Buffalo.
Love it. I think it's fantastic for the league, right?
100%.
But it just makes Toronto's job harder. right?
Well,
All right, Buffalo, Montreal. Buffalo's got a big one tomorrow night. They gotta go into Montreal and steal one on a Saturday night. That's going to be tough. I think if they can bring it home, I think
they got it.
the
I agree.
momentum shifts to them. Carolina, I'm not sold on them just because they don't. I don't know. They're Carolina, right? They're going to be at the. We kind of knew they'd get to the conference final, right? But there's no Florida, right? There's no Tampa.
There's
those experience. This is why it's so frustrating as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. That this is the year that if you had got in, you could be playing Colorado or Vegas in the final.
It's
and not really have to
over again.
Yeah, it's insane. So
now
that's the East, the West, like Dallas, Minnesota.
But listen, what I will say about Carolina that as a Leaf fan, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. Is that until I see, like, I view Freddie the way I view Hellebuck. Until I see Freddie do it, I don't believe it.
He's playing well though.
No, but listen, hasn't really
got to win a big one.
They haven't really played anybody. Like if we're gonna be honest about it, right? Like they've kind of been on the coastal, and as well as I do, Johnny, when Freddie gets under pressure, Freddie has a tendency to make 99 phenomenal, ridiculous saves, and then let that floater in from the blue line that's a backbreaker. So listen, I hope if I'm a Carolina fan, and listen, I got my buddy Sam that lives out in Carolina. Shout out to Sam. Listen, I really hope that doesn't happen to Freddie. I've always been a Carolina fan. I remember when my wife and I, we would go down in 2020, was it 2002? We played Carolina in the conference finals. We went down, I think, 2 weekends in a row, and it was a fantastic experience. Crowd in Carolina, first class crowd in Carolina too, by the way. Good, knowledgeable fans, knowledgeable hockey fans.
I don't like that storm surge stuff or whatever that.
I mean that's kind of a muffin new wave kind of thing going on. But
they have the best chance out of anybody that's left. So Buffalo, Montreal, or them to win the Stanley Cup. They have the roster construction, the coaching, the structure from top to bottom that could win the cup. Montreal or Buffalo will not beat Carolina or Colorado or Vegas.
Agreed. What I will say is this, though, and believe me, this pains me to say, and if you've known me for any length of time, you'll understand how much this hurts. If you want a blueprint, though, for how to rebuild, watch Montreal. Boy, I hate, and I mean hate saying it. I hope they lose 78-0 tomorrow night. But my God, they're loaded and they're on the come up.
They're coached well, right? Marty St. Louis done a tremendous job, and never coached anything other than his kids' youth hockey, and got what arguably the toughest job and toughest market, them in Toronto, really.
Hey, listen, maybe John Jacobs should pay attention to that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So while we wrap up the playoffs here, we have to talk about Mitch Marner, okay? Because I can remember before we came on the air, I remember you, because you always pull out these goofy, obscure stats, like in the second and third period of an elimination game, Mitch Marner is -9 and hasn't scored a point in 8 years. Stuff like that. I'm just saying, every year.
And they were right. They were correct.
It wasn't just Mitch. It was Austin. It was all the Willie. Like, when the chips are down and it's time to step up and do something, none of them could. But Mitch Marner has been the talk of the playoffs.
I hate him even more.
Right? He's been unreal. That goal he scored between the legs last night or 2 nights ago on a real nice pass up from the other Willie.
In a decade, John, when did you ever see anything resembling anything? He took his helmet off. The hair was dry. He's yelling at I'll never understand it.
That's going to lead into a whole thing with the Leafs and what.
But hold on.
him run out of Toronto.
I do want to say this about Mitch Marner because I think I've thought about this actually, and I think it's a fair analogy. I think if you were to, and I'm only going off what Mitch Marner has done this year. Mitch Marner, maybe the pressure on Marner was simply too much. Maybe it was, and maybe he is what the NBA's version of Kevin Durant is. Nobody, and hear me out on this, nobody says that Mitch Marner is not an elite stud hockey player. Even me, I can't stand the guy. I've said it all along. He's great, just can't perform in the playoffs under pressure. Kevin Durant in his NBA career, when he is paired with ones and twos, and he is a second option or a third option, Kevin Durant is fantastic. He's unstoppable. When Kevin Durant becomes the focal point of a team, Kevin Durant can't do anything.
Yeah, so, Marner's a funny one here.
But that's what I'm saying though, John. I look at it and I'm going, you give Kevin Durant to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, all of a sudden he is ridiculous. He's playing against the second and third guys. Marner is now playing on second line. He's getting first power play minutes, but he's playing second line, against different guys. He doesn't have the pressure of being the number one guy in his hometown. I'm starting to think that there might be something to that.
Well, I've been saying it for years. It's the worst market to play in, right? You're going to get scrutinized by bozos like you and me because you wiped your ass the wrong way.
Yeah,
right. At the end of the day, and that's what happened here. But I want to go down a different angle here on the Mitch Marner stuff. Okay, and so Mitch Marner is proving us all wrong, right? He's in the conference final, has a chance to get a ring, a very good chance to get a ring. That's a good hockey club. Like I said, if Mark Stone is back in the lineup, watch out. I mean, Colorado, I'm not thinking that they're as healthy as they would need to be, but we'll see. That'll play it out. But Mitch Marner has proven to his doubters that he can step up, that he can be on a team, that he can win because they're in the conference final, something that couldn't happen in the first 10 years that he was here with arguably as good or better of teams on paper throughout that. There were some good teams that
100%.
So I'm gonna shift the blame here for the way that Mitchell Marner exited Toronto back on Brad Treliving. Okay, so I thought this out on a long drive back from PEI. I was thinking about this, and you go back, and we all know it's all well documented that they asked him to waive last year at the deadline, even though they were in the playoffs. They were going to move him. Mikko Rantanen was coming. They had agreed to an 8-year, $12 million a year cap hit. Okay, Marner said, "No, I'm good. You know what?" And then they most likely said, "Okay, well, here's a contract offer for probably somewhat similar. I think even more. We'll give you $13 million, $8." And he said, "Well, I'm going to see what I'm worth in the market."
Hate him even more.
Knowing very well he wasn't coming back. Okay. Yeah. So here's where the ball was dropped. And it would have been the summer before.
2 years ago.
Yes. You get to a point where you're going into Mitchell Marner's last season and you go to Darren Ferris and his representatives and you say, "Here's your contract offer. This is fair market. We're going to pay him. We're going to give him 8 years, blah, 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 blah. Here it is." If they at that point, last July or two Julys ago, if they say, "Well, no, we're going to go into the season, we may look at the," you know what? If you wanted to rewrite history, Brad Treliving with the support of the Maple Leaf board, because he would need it, because it would have been a media circus, should have said, okay, then give us a 5-team list to move you to, or don't come to camp.
Okay. So
stick with me here. Okay. This is 2 summers ago, going into 24-25. So July of 24. Here's your contract offer, fair market value. Probably might have been top 5 contracts in the NHL at the time, right? Kaprizov hadn't signed that goofy one yet, right?
Worth every penny.
Same money, or even a little bit more than Connor McDavid did the 2-year deal. So you say, here's your contract. You sign the contract, or you give me a 5-team list to move you to, or you don't come to camp. They would have said at that point, fine, we won't come to camp. But now you got to draw a line in the sand and say, okay. Because guess what would have got in the way there? Mitchell Marner's ego, Paul Marner's ego,
correct,
Aaron Ferris's ego would have got either one of those two things done. So if you get the 5-team list, perfect. You're going to get some assets for that hockey player. A lot more than a first rounder, that they hit the jackpot on because Nick was somebody they needed a big center in Colorado, right? You're going to get a package for that guy that summer before, especially if he would agree to an extension. So you're going to get assets, right? And this team looks different going into this season, and you're running your program now. The players and the agents aren't.
So timeout. Okay. There is absolutely nothing that you just said that's factually incorrect. Nothing. Okay. But we live in Maple Leaf land. Now, we got to go, let's go back to that summer. Okay. When Kyle Dubas made the power play against Shanahan and lost, we waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And then the wisdom from Edward Rogers and Brandon Shanahan said the only person that can run this franchise properly is Brad Treliving. And he was hired on, call it June 20th, give or take, somewhere around there. July 1st comes up. I think he had like a 2-week window to make a decision. You and I and everybody watching this show understands how Rogers Sports and Entertainment runs things. Do you reasonably think, with any intellectual honesty, that any of what you said, while factually true, ever would have been allowed to have happened under the leadership?
Well, but that's my point. That's why you're where you are right now.
But that's the problem.
You let a generational top 10 player in the world walk for Nicolas Roy. And so, what that would have done to the rest of the group and the rest of the league, it would have put them on notice. And here's my crazy take, and I'm not going back on, I think they needed to move on from Dubas. Don't get me wrong. I think Dubas might have had the intestinal fortitude to make that move because he was here for a few years. I do. I really but like I said, and when I said the caveat was you got to have the board's approval and you got to be prepared to go and play the whole season without him and let him walk. Because guess what? Not only does the ego, he wants to play, or he's got to have a contract, right? He's got to have some comparables for somebody to sign him. If he sits out a whole year at 28 years old or wherever he is, that's not optimal for the player, right? We can second guess. Anyway,
it's Le'Veon Bell where we are today
because the players and the agents are running the league, and the teams don't have any. Their stick is too small now. Right? If you yell at a player in practice, you got a Zoom call the next day with the PA and the agent and this guy and that guy. And it just, so we'll get into that when we talk about, who do we want to coach this team? It could be, there's names floating out there. We'll start talking about some of them, but we have to be chronologically
correct
here.
Correct.
And the next move, so playoffs, we'll see what happens here over the next little while. I still predict Colorado. I said it going in. I still say it, but that's why they play the games. Now, Leafs bow out. They clean house. Treliving's gone. Poor Chiefs waiting in the wind. Who's going to be the next? Who's going to be my new boss? And I honestly thought, because Doug Armstrong had just put in his notice and Thomas Steen or Alexander Steen, his assistant, was taking over St. Louis. He ran the Canadian national program, the Olympic team, blah, blah. I thought, lots of experience. I thought they were going to go that route. I really did. The guy from the agent, that Gillis, Mike Gillis, that used to be in Vancouver, guy like him, been around. And then they go, and then you start hearing rumors. They're talking to Chayka. They're talking to Mats. It's an odd relationship between those two, but they met in London when Max Domi was playing there, and Taya and Mats went to a game, and Chayka, Chayka had his issues in Phoenix, as we all know. He tried to circumvent the rules. From what I heard, he might have been he definitely was probably a little too young and immature to have the responsibility of running a National Hockey League team at 26. A little cocky, kind of dug himself into a hole, broke some rules. For lack of a better term, got thrown out of the NHL.
But listen, if we're going to be fair, oddly appropriate that the franchise that has had the most difficulty in the history of the NHL, unless you're in Atlanta, gave a 26-year-old control of an entire franchise.
Yeah.
So, believe me, we're going to get to my opinions on John Chayka. Part of me says, okay.
Got to give him a shot.
I mean, if that's the rationale for hiring, got to give him a shot. That is, man, we got bigger problems.
We knew going in they wanted somebody analytical. There's nobody that I'm aware of in the sport that has the credentials analytically that John Chayka does.
So just to be clear, I just want to be clear with what you just said. You just said there's nobody in the league. This man, to be very clear, has not been in the league that has the credentials analytically that a guy has who hasn't been in the league.
Yeah, but he has a company and had a company that's basically taught multiple NHL franchises how to analyze, what to analyze, right? I don't mind the hire. I like the hire a lot more that Mats is there with them, because I think I've spent time with Mats. Mats is a very 100%. Analytical, very calculated individual. Matt Sundin never put his foot in his mouth in 20 years or however long he played in the NHL at any interview. Very composed. Okay. He was a tremendous leader. They didn't win anything with him, but that wasn't due to him, right? He played hard. He played the right way. He did what he had to do.
Couple of conference finals
for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay. You got to look at it. You got to read between the lines here. You got a guy like Doug Gilmour, Hall of Famer, beloved Leaf, that's been a general manager in the Ontario Hockey League, been a general manager or a head coach in the Ontario Hockey League, lives in Toronto, right? So I don't mind this. I really don't mind this.
Let me
go ahead.
Here's my take on this.
Yeah.
And I think we would both be remiss if we did not address the absolute gong show that is Keith Pelly. Okay. Like Keith Pelly, listen, he may be super intelligent, and I believe that. He's probably got like 6 Sigma lean white belts.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure he's wonderful in, trying to, come up with contracts for, the IOC and, Golf Canada and all that good stuff. I'm sure he is. Never, ever, ever let him speak to the media ever.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully he kind of had to there, right?
I mean,
he kind of had to introducing these guys. I guess to sum up the hire for me, Matt Sundin, very smart, very calculated. He's also very, very, very connected. Okay. There's not a person in the sport that doesn't like, respect, says bad things about Matt Sundin. He's universally liked.
Say your piece.
Matt Sundin screwed Toronto maybe worse than Mitch Marner did. And went, well, really? I don't want to get moved. And then signs in Vancouver. right? You could have got assets for him at that trade deadline that year.
True.
Okay.
But if we're being honest about it, Matt's never had a deal to send him to Vancouver.
We don't know that
at the time.
We don't know that.
I mean, we
all I'm saying is
all
I'm saying is Matt Sundin in this market is Teflon, because that same situation with 85-90% of other players, high-end players, that guy is the villain, and he's being booed when Vancouver comes. Matt Sundin has an aura about him that I think would be a tremendous asset. So you got Chayka, who's a bean counter for all intents and purposes. He's going to look at numbers and come back and say, these are the style of players we need at this salary that produce this much, and we construct here. Mats is going to come in from the hockey side and say, yeah, but we can't have too many of those guys, and we can't. There's a million ways to construct an organization. I think they have a balance between the two of them that I'm going to give Keith Pelly credit for these two hires, because he didn't do the norm. He didn't go get a guy that's been a GM.
Now that's very true.
Right? So I respect that, and I can understand it. I my eyebrow raised. I was like, "What is going on here?" And then now I'm digesting it. I'm thinking, okay, right.
Okay, so listen, I first of all, let's talk about Matt's. I absolutely love the fact that Matt Sundin is with the organization. Love it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think one of the criminal things that this organization has failed to do is to bring in players who have been elite within the franchise to the franchise. Like, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great that Wendell and Sittler come on and they do like promotional things, but they're not making decisions on the team. They're cheerleaders, right? And I love them for it. But great franchises. Let's look at Detroit. Let's look at Montreal. Let's look at, over the years, Tampa, the way they've run things. They've always brought guys back in to the fold. And so I love that Mats is here. I'm a big fan. I think that hire is great, long overdue. Have no quarrels with that at all. John Chayka, I don't know. Listen, I'm a Leaf fan. I pray to God he's the right guy.
Well, that's all we can do, right?
No,
that's all you can do.
But hear what I'm saying, though. I hope he's the right guy. He's our GM now. I'm going to cheer for him. Where I'm not sure on everything, and I go back to Ted Rogers or Edward Rogers or whichever one of the Rogers is now running this franchise.
Mr. Rogers.
Let's just call Mr. Rogers. We ran a supposed, exhaustive search of the greatest minds that we could possibly come up with. And, you had assistant GMs in Dallas that I don't know, man. You're under Jim Nill for how many years? And you're interviewing around, like my opinion only. What do I know? I don't know that there's a better general manager in the league than Jim Nill. If you look at his history, that guy is about as Teflon as they come. At the same point in time, but at the same point in time, like, the best guy that we could come up with, the guy who wowed everybody, is the guy who was out of the league for years. And I don't know. When I saw the hiring, I went, and I remember when the names were being tossed around, I kind of said to a few people, I said, listen, the leafiest thing that we could do right now would be to hire John Chayka.
Yeah, but you say out of the league. No, you know what, John? I've never been in the league, but I could construct a team, and I could maybe coach, to a point where. But John, this guy is
suspended out of the league because you mismanaged the draft process, which, as a general manager, is about as core to your function as anything that you're going to do.
Okay, and that makes this hire even more remarkable in I hope a positive way, and I'll tell you why. This isn't a traditional job interview where you go in and you give them your resume and you say, yeah, I did this, I did that. And that's the initial conversation. Hey, how are you? We're interested in you. Are you interested in blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then they if they like the guy, or maybe they like the way that interview went, they'll bring in a panel, and it'll be more different people from he probably interviewed 5-6 times. Well, the last couple times he would present. That wouldn't be, Keith Pelly and his group of suits asking questions. They would have said to the guy, hey, you're coming back next Thursday, and you're going to present how you, John Chayka, will fix this franchise. So in the meantime, Chayka probably talks to Sundin, right? And so he goes in and in the next interview and says, okay, so I talked to Matt Sundin. He's willing to move his family over, right? I don't know who initiated the contract, whatever.
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
John Chayka, with his plan, sold the Maple Leaf board, Keith Pelly, whoever else you want to include. There could have been, the Rogers family all there. I don't know. But you take his history, which would be, we can't touch this guy. It's going to be a media nightmare. We can't, like Steve Simmons is going to come in and go crazy at the first press conference, which did.
Shout out to Steve Simmons, by the way.
They knew this. They knew this would be the reaction. So I look at it glass half full, because he clearly presented a plan, an action plan, a 3-6 month, 2 years, 5 years draft structure, how we're going to construct it, where we're going to be, what the team is going to look like, from a structure perspective. So he was able to climb over guys, like you said, Dallas. We don't even know who was all interviewed, but he climbed over guys that were squeaky clean, never did anything wrong, were in the right situations. So Chayka presented something, or Matz presented something. Matz might have gone and said, this is the guy. I watched the Memorial Cup with him, and I've never seen a hockey mind work the way his did. Right.
Well, listen,
Lindsay Hofford, out of Toronto, worked for John Chayka. So Lindsay was an assistant GM in Phoenix when John was there, and speaks very highly of him. Now this guy, he's got it now, right? Now it's up to him. Execute, figure it out. What's your plan? So, okay, there's the hires. Okay, we're cautiously optimistic, hoping that they made the right decision. That's all.
And we're all on board. And now, like, there's no point in being like, and don't get me wrong, whether I thought he was the perfect candidate now is irrelevant. He is our GM. Therefore, I'm all in. Let's go, John Chayka. 100%.
So now we frame it up. Okay. They do the awkward press conference with Pelly. I don't even know what was going on. He looked like he was on acid or something. He was
so bad.
And then Simmons, like, I knew it was Simmons right away.
Steve Simmons.
Oh God, here we go. But okay, they get through that. A couple days later, we hit the draft lottery. Okay, I'm honestly, I think I said it to Jack. If they don't get, because they couldn't get 4 or 3, they could only get 2 or 1 or 5 in the top 5. Right? They stay where they are, or they get the second or the first. So and 3 or 4 wasn't going to be an option. So I was kind of saying to Jack, if they don't move to 1 or 2, I'd almost rather see them drop out, because then, they'll get their pick next year or whatever, right?
Rip the Band-Aid off.
And then they win the goddamn thing.
I'm watching this, and John, listen, if we're being honest, we were sitting there going, of course it's Boston. Of course it's Boston. Right? And of course
Boston's going to be very off.
Of course it is.
That's what was going through my head.
It's Tuukka Rask all over again. It's Taylor, like Tyler Seguin. It's the same, and of course it's going to Boston. And I'll be honest, I was sitting in the basement. Everybody was upstairs eating dinner, having a good time. I said, listen, I got to go be alone. I got to go be alone. And I was sitting in
Downstairs
the basement.
crying.
I was sitting in the basement, and I had literally the lights were off, and I was ready to shut it down, and just go to bed. Like I just decided we were out. And I'm telling you, everybody came down the stairs, and they thought something was medically wrong. Okay,
I got to tell you my story too, because
that happens, and I'm screaming in the basement like just an idiot, which nobody's gonna find that hard to believe. But like I'm losing it in the basement. Kara comes running downstairs, and she's like, "Dad, what's going on?" I'm like, "It's happening. It's happening again." Like we won, and she looked at me. She was like, "What did we win? Who won what?" And I went, "Look at the TV." And Kara went, "Oh my God." And even Christina, now I will say the bride kind of looked at me and went, they're going to screw this up, right?
So here's our story. About a half an hour, my wife was upstairs in the bath, and Jack and I were watching it. And about a half an hour before the picks came, we got one of those alerts on our phone. Like everybody in the area gets an alert that there was a guy running around in the woods with a machete. Like, a guy, no, I'm not kidding you. It's like huge alert. And then there was an update of his location. So he's running around, and it's nowhere close to us, but it's 45 minutes out of town kind of thing. He's this guy with a machete running around in the woods, being a menace, right? So it's like, watch out, lock your doors if you're in the area, blah 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 blah. Okay. And the best one is on one of the social media things I looked at. They said, so they described this guy. There's a guy with brown hair and brown eyes running around. The area was called Gates Brook with a machete. And then somebody posted, "Oh, okay, good. Thanks for clarifying." So if I see somebody with blue eyes and a machete, I'm not supposed to worry, right? Anyway, fast forward to the pick. So after the second ball came out, Toronto had the worst odds that anybody left. They were like 4% after the second ball.
John,
third ball, they kind of went up again, right? Anyway, I'm like, and we know we need number 12. That's it. Number 12. Right? So we're watching. Jack and I were kind of at edge of our seats watching, and I'm going, there's not going to happen.
It's never happening.
Anyway, 12 comes out. They pull it out. 12. We start screaming. My wife thinks the machete guy's here because we're like top of our lungs screaming. She's like, "Oh my God," so she's like, "Is everything okay?" And we're like, yeah. No.
There's an 8.5% chance everything's fine.
Yeah. So that was it. Anyway, they win that. So now it's what do you do? Okay. So here's who I have in the top 4, and I'm going to add another one in there. I forget one of the defensemen's name. But Manny Malholtra's boy is a nice centerman. Caleb Malhotra, the Hamilton. He's probably the best center available.
Did we talk about Manny Malhotra maybe being a head coach?
We can. Yeah. I mean, he's on the list. He's going to be there, right? He's going to be in the mix.
I don't want it.
I have my thoughts on that, but let's talk about the draft first. Okay. So you've got 2 different outlets. One has McKenna. The other one has Stenrud. Stenrud's ready to play in the NHL right now. He played with men last year. I listened to one scout talk about he scouts in 10-game increments, and in a 10-game increment after Christmas, after the World Juniors, Gavin McKenna had, I want to say, 19 points, including an 8-point game in 10 games with Penn State, right? Playing college hockey. In that same 10-game stretch, but McKenna was like -5. He had 19 points, but he was -5. Okay.
I know this.
In the same 10-game stretch.
Yep.
Stenrud in Sweden, playing in a big men's league. Yep. Had quite a bit. I think he had 6 points in those 10 games.
It was +9.
But he was a +9.
Yeah.
He killed penalties. He's playing with men, right? So Stenrud can walk in and play in the NHL next year and not hurt you. McKenna can also come in and play in the NHL next year. but there's a lot of risk with that. Not saying it's not worth it, because he's so I don't know. I've gone off on Verhoff. I like the Carroll's kid, the defenseman. Then there's another Ontario defenseman that played with Verhoff at the World Juniors, and I don't know. What I do know is I would be looking at the assets that I have that I could parlay into getting 2 of those 6
Correct.
young men that I just talked about.
Correct. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that means Nylander, you know what? I think
Philly's
we do
not the
that.
guy.
If it means Matthews to get that and another first and a player, I look at that, because there's no guarantee Matthews doesn't walk in 2 years. So if you can get that conversation started now, I would, I've been a Matthews fan since he came in. He's a top 5 player probably in the world when he's healthy. He's going to do exactly what Mitchell Marner is doing. If you just swapped it and you took Austin Matthews and he left in the summer and signed as a free agent with Minnesota or a team that's, like a Vegas, a good structured, well-balanced team, he would have been doing the same thing. He's a tremendous, I try not to trade him to the East. I think he'd want to go West anyway. But there's going to be teams lining up. And I read something today that's crazy, but Matthew Knies' value
Okay,
in
so
the
hold on.
market
But hold on.
is worth more than Austin Matthews right now.
Because what they had said, I saw the same piece. What's his name? That came from. I was listening on TSN 1050. That's where it came.
I think
from.
LeBron or Johnson.
And so what he said was he talked to a GM and he said at the trade deadline somebody had pitched to Tree Living a 6 or a 7 piece deal for Knies simply because of his age and his contract, right?
And his upside.
Yeah, and so based on age and contract, you're willing to give up more for him than you would be willing to give up for Matthews, where you've got questions on XYZ.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, maybe, okay, fine. So here's something that I think is everybody needs to press pause on. When we look at Gavin McKenna, everybody wants to talk about what he did last year in the NCAA, which is great. And listen, he got paid a crap ton of money through NIL. Good for you, Gavin McKenna, and made a bunch of money at Penn State. Okay, so money's not an object for Gavin McKenna, even at this age. He's already like very well off. His family's paid. Life is good for Gavin McKenna. Look at Gavin McKenna and his performance in the WHL.
Yeah,
the year prior,
100%.
Okay? And so
went to the Memorial Cup.
No, but listen, but this is what I'm saying though, Johnny. I'm saying this for people that don't necessarily pay attention to what goes on in the OHL or in the WHL or in the Q. Go back and take a historical look at what Gavin McKenna did at his age in the
17-year-old year. So the year before he's drafted.
Correct.
He had he had better numbers than Bedard.
He had better like which and
better
again
numbers
than McJesus, right? Like the numbers are ridiculous. And so all I'm saying is if you're new to the game and you're just looking at stuff and you're going, oh, Penn State numbers, I mean 15 goal, okay, you're going, pay attention. It's a bigger process here. And again, you are
he's a tremendous talent.
No, 100%.
It's gonna be a problem. He's gonna be the type of kid that could be a problem if you don't take him.
Correct. And not only that, John, you're bringing in a guy like Gavin McKenna, okay, and you're pairing him with somebody like Matthews. This is not him coming in to play with you and me, okay? This is giving him a legit, and again, I want to preface this when I say this about Matthews, okay? Because there's a lot of talk in Leafland about what Matthews is and what Matthews isn't, what Matthews could be. Can we just pause and take for a second. Austin Matthews played last year with Matias Michelli and Max Domi and still had 30 goals.
Yep.
Okay, still had 30 goals. Austin Matthews right now, with all the ups and downs and injuries and everything else, and pick whatever you want, is on pace right now to score more goals than anyone in the history of the game.
Yeah, even with an off year this year, he's still way ahead of Ovechkin.
Full stop, pause.
Yeah.
Now you're going to tell me that if you're the Maple Leafs franchise, knowing you just gave him Matias Michelli and Max Domi, that he got 30. That just tells you he could score 30 goals in his sleep accidentally. Okay?
So the haul for him has to be immense, or you do not move him.
So now the question then becomes, how valuable does McKenna become? Because Gavin McKenna could very easily come in and have the same impact that a player like the gentleman who I suggested at the beginning of the year, Macklin Celebrini, was going to have. And I'm not saying in year one he's going to be that guy.
No.
But
he's got a better chance of playing with Matthews than he does playing with
100%.
Domi.
Now let's think about this though. Now what happens now? And again, I'm thinking big picture here. You've now got Gavin McKenna. How much does that benefit Easton Cowan?
Well,
what kind of player does Easton Cowan get to become if all of a sudden he's either playing on the other side, or if he's playing with Nylander and he's playing with Tavares full time? This pick opens up a world of possibilities in my mind. Again, I got two thoughts on this, John, and I'm a very difficult spot here. I wholeheartedly believe it's McKenna and everybody else. That's my opinion. But I will say this.
Sure.
The one thing that the Leafs do not have not had since I've been alive is a stud 1A defenseman.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I know more than anybody else, but I watched Christian Verhoff play an awful lot. And I'm telling you, I would do just about whatever I had to do in the draft to find somebody to get that pick. Because Verhoff, to me, he'd look pretty good in a blue and white jersey.
Oh, 100%. And you might be able to trade down and get another. There's
options.
Really, three trains of thought for me. You have to figure out before the draft where you're going. Long conversation with Austin, Willie, Nyes, all of them. Okay, maybe Nyes is
44.
If that report from Johnson is true, and you can parlay Matthew Nyes into maybe one of those other top 6 players that are available, and you can end up with a McKenna and a Verhoff, or a McKenna and a Carrolls, or a Stenrud and a you know what I mean?
You have to.
So that's the Chicago formula, right? You think about the dynasties or the teams that have won in the last 20 years. Chicago drafted a bunch of kids, real good players at the same time. They got some high picks. They got Taves and they got Kane and then they had
Keith and Seabrook.
Duncan Keith and they built around them with guys like Boland and Bickle and they drafted well and they raised these kids through the organization and they played in the minors for a year or two, like in Boland's case and Bickle and some of those guys that ended up, and then they won 3 and 5 years and they changed the pieces around every time because
they had
constraints, because their players were getting too good to keep them all. Right. But they went on a run and they won 3 and 5. Pretty sure if Toronto could win in 3 years from now, 3 and 5, people would forget all the pain. Okay.
John,
that's one side. Number two, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning. Get a bunch of guys that play hard, play the right way, get a real good coach like a Paul Maurice or, John, Tampa's coach, John Cooper, right? Get guys that take less, like Florida did. Get a bunch of really, really good players that play hard and play the right way and play for each other at $8 million. Nobody's won with the big ticket guy.
John, Duncan Keith,
Yeah.
Victor Hedman, Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, they all had that
not,
guy.
You do not win.
But he wasn't a 13 million, 14 million forward.
No.
He's an $8-9 million defenseman that plays 25 minutes a night, gets a point a game, and you can't get to his net.
Don't misunderstand my point. I'm not talking.
No, I'm with you. I hear you.
About the money. I'm saying it does not matter unless you have.
You got to have that deep.
Stud, 1A does not matter. Is the best defenseman on the ice every night guy. Listen, Victor Hedman on his own, like Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky, and we know my feelings on him. They do not win any of those cups if Victor Hedman's not their number one defenseman.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay. So that goes to my third structure third option for structure. Okay. And that is kind of like Vegas, right? They don't care about their draft picks. Could care less. They trade them away to get players, right? They're in the free agent market every year. They're going after the big dogs, right? So does that bring into play somebody? I know he said yesterday when they got eliminated that Quinn Hughes may is open to signing in Minnesota. Well, what's his relationship with Matthews, right? What if you went to and you said, hey, Quinn played in Toronto. He played for the Marlies growing up. He's an American kid, but he played in the MTHL.
Life changing,
right? So they get Quinn Hughes to sign in Toronto, right? Then in a couple of years, maybe little brother Jackie comes up in Jersey, and is that enough? Well, right? All I'm saying is that's there. That's there. Number one defensemen are there. Everything is available for the right price, right? And that's going to lead me into, so that's roster construction. One of those three things. What are they going to do? We can only speculate. I would be fine with any of those ways if it was done the right way, right? If you want to blow up and get rid of your veterans and build a group like Chicago and tell us, hey, 3 years, we're going to let these kids grow up together and fill in the pieces around them and see what we can do. I'm okay with that.
And just to be clear, John, for those people that say, and because I guarantee you right now, there are people watching this saying, we tried that. We had Matthews, we had Nylander, keep in mind, the biggest detriment to that plan and that process was a flat cap in COVID. Nobody planned for that. Nobody predicted that.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a flat cap where you could not make the moves that needed to, the Matthews, Marner, Nylander saga ends very, very differently. So
I don't disagree. There's a lot of factors, like you talk about your favorite coach there, Keefe. Was he the right guy to bring in with that group, or should they have brought in a Torts?
So hold on. Let's talk about that because you brought him up. Did he get his general manager fired a year and a half after he was hired? Okay, I wasn't sure if that happened or not. If that was just me, but
no.
To all of the Keith fans who keep telling me what a great coach this guy is, he's coached that New Jersey team that he was brought in to develop in the exact same freeway run and gun hockey that, again, led to no playoffs, got his general manager fired. He's an AHL garbage coach. I'll say it till the day I die. That's it. That's all I got to say about that.
So sorry, I had to get when it comes to coach, okay. So the next step, we're going to see here. This is all going to play out in real time here in the next 6 weeks. We'll have a very good idea before the draft of what this team is going to be, right? Are they going to be young, or are they going to say, okay, can we parlay
what's your money
number one draft pick?
If you have to make a call right now, where's your money?
I think they probably draft McKenna. They probably keep they're having conversations with everybody. Everything will be on the table. Chayka is a very similar, if you want to look at it from a philosophical, the Moneyball, Billy Bean, right? In Oakland,
right?
There's a lot of similarities between the way he's going to look at it as an analytic robot. This is what we need. We need a $4 million player in the C-hole. We need a entry-level guy. This is how we're going to do it. Okay.
Sure.
Now you got to go out there and execute. And now a guy like Matt Sundin comes in because Jake can go and say, hey, these are the 4 guys I'm thinking for this spot. And Matt's will look at tape, or he may not even have to because he knows. Yeah. If I'm going to play with one of those 4 guys,
that's the guy I want.
Right. So then Jake goes after that guy. And teams do it daily. This is how they use the resources within to make decisions. Okay. So I see, like I said earlier, good fit. I think we're going to know what this is. Now, coach, I don't think they need to rush. The coach doesn't need to be part of this draft. It's the number 1 pick, right? We're not talking about, you got a second and a fourth, and they probably already know if they're taking McKenna or not. And maybe, you gotta also think about the Swedish connection with Stenrud, right? Matt Sundin will know very well how good this kid is, right? Yeah. So not that he's going to make that decision. I think they almost have to go McKenna just because, unless they can get an asset for somebody that really wants McKenna, that can almost end up with, Verhoff and
Stenberg.
Malhotra, the center ice.
Or like if San Jose says, I have to have him to play with Celebrini. If San Jose comes to you right now and says, I will give you the 2nd pick and a great foundational piece, 100%. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But we want McKenna. I'm telling you,
everything is on the table. So now you got to figure out, and I don't think the structure of the team is necessary to make a decision on the coach, and I'll explain where I'm, and we're hearing the same things, right? The same guy. All the retreads are out there. Out of the retreads, if you're going to construct this team and kind of do what you can do to keep Matthews, get McKenna in here, get some free agent signings, move some pieces around, I'm going after Chris Knoblauch today. He went into Edmonton to that disaster, okay? And we talked about it for years, John. They had way too high.
They just needed a goalie.
They came closer with a worse roster than Toronto even got near. And Chris Knoblauch deserved. And shame on Stan Bowman for
what you're saying. There's merit to what you're saying. There's merit.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. If that's the roster, if you're gonna roll the dice again and try to reconstruct and get right back in it today, I'm going to Chris Knoblauch's people and I'm saying 2 years. He's a very good. He's a structure. He's analytic. He's very well respected. There's a lot of people in the hockey world that are really upset with the Edmonton Oilers. And for those of you that don't know it, so a couple days ago, Knoblauch got fired today or yesterday. One of them.
But
they asked Vegas for permission to talk to Bruce Cassidy before they fired him. And from what I heard, they were going to keep Knoblauch, but they wanted to see if they were going to keep him if Cassidy wasn't available. But then when it leaks out, now they got to move off first. You can't. Yeah. So it's a circus there. I watched the press conference with Bowman. And he was like
not Stan Bowman like.
Same question kept coming. How do you feel that you handled, and he kept saying, well, we went through a process and they called him right out. They said, well, you asked Vegas for, and he's like, well, there's speculation. And, well, no, it leaked.
You did or you didn't.
You did. He didn't deny it. So anyway, I go after Chris Knoblauch if I'm trying to get to the finals today, right? But what you have to find is a coach that is going to command respect, okay, has some X's and O's, or is surrounded by X's and O's guys. I'm throwing a Brinks truck at
John Cooper.
Carl from Denver. I am giving him. I'm telling you, it's gonna cost you because anybody wants him. Okay. I watched his program from afar. Okay. He doesn't have the best
always
players.
there. They're always
He doesn't have the best players. He doesn't care. He said it. We don't necessarily recruit the best players.
Yeah.
We recruit the best people that'll play the way that'll fit in to our structure, and they will play the way, or they won't be here. Period. And he's 35. He's a young coach. I'm going after him. And I've said this before, and Hunter's coached in the NHL.
Well, listen, I think we both pounded the Hunter bandwagon. I think you and I are on the same page.
I think if they were going to do it, it would have been Mark and Dale.
It would have happened already. And if we're going to be honest, if you're the Hunters, you've possibly got the greatest non-NHL setup going right now. Yeah. Why are you going to leave that when you've got to deal with Ed Rogers or Ted Rogers or Picker Rogers, Mr. Rogers, and deal with all of that nonsense?
Oh, yeah.
I like, listen, if I'm the Hunters, I can totally get why you stay away. But
yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, if I was Dale Hunter, I would say, show me your roster and then we'll talk. Show me what you're going into the season. Dale's 65 years old. He's not going to chase for 5 years. If he had a roster he thought he could win with, he may come in. Other guys that are out there, it's all the retread coaches. Bruce Cassidy, if Bruce Cassidy comes here, Austin's gone.
Okay, Bruce Cassidy is a
prick. Players don't like him.
And listen, Bruce Cassidy's a finisher. He's a guy that you bring in when you're right there, and he's going to push over the top.
He just got fired when they're right there.
Well, I mean, listen.
And think about this.
That's my opinion.
You're going to fire your coach. You're about to win the division. You're about to win the division. Okay. You're right there. You're probably top 5 going into the playoffs. Who can win the cup? Okay. 6 games left. And they want to go they want somebody that's less hard on the players, so they bring in Torts. What the hell does that say about Bruce Cassidy?
Fair point. Fair point.
You didn't bring in a guy like Rick Bowness. You brought in Torts.
So
and he's doing a fantastic job.
Well, listen, Torts always does a fantastic job for the first year and a half. Let's not lie about it.
Jerry Gallant's another one. There's a lot of those guys. Their noise gets old. It gets tuned out after time. There's not a lot of Paul Maurice's and John Cooper's that just consistently same message, right?
I have
culture.
I have forever and a day, and I hate the franchise more than anybody. But John Cooper is the guy I would back the Brinks truck up for. I'd give him whatever he wants. Give him
and that's not out of the question either. I'm telling you.
No, I'm just telling you.
You saw Vasi's press conference when they got eliminated. Okay, there's going to be a breakup there of some sort.
Yes.
Okay. There's going to be the East is getting better, and Tampa had a golden ticket with the experience that they have. Hedman being out obviously hurt way more than you would have thought.
But not really, because
Cooper may be available. Vasilevsky, maybe. They're going to do some roster reconstruction there for sure.
So for me, it is shout out to Rob Jackson, who just said a trained monkey should do well with Vegas's lineup. I mean,
I don't disagree.
That's a valid point. But for me, if John Cooper is not the guy, who is the guy that I want? For me, it's one of two guys, and I'm going to give you one that I've championed for a while, and I know the latest results for him weren't necessarily the best. I'm a big Patrick Waugh fan. I like what Patrick Waugh brings. I understand in the island, it didn't go particularly well. Different lineup, different type of thing. I like the fire that Waugh brings. I like Patrick. I think Patrick falls into that category that you mentioned earlier, where their noise gets tuned out. You have to be the right type of team, I think. Either really young or really close. Like really, he did a tremendous job in junior. Like Quebec Ramparts were good every year. Right, and he ran that organization. It was one of the best run organizations. It would be in the conversation with London and some of these really top, well-run franchises. So he can develop players, and I think he can't be in between.
Patrick Roy either needs that option A, like I talked about the Chicago option.
Agree,
right?
100%.
Get a bunch of kids and bring them up, and Pat would fit into that option well. Or if they retool and keep the Matthews, bring in the kid, get some free agents, try to get back there, and that's there. You said it yourself about Matthews. Give Matthews McKenna on the wing, and bring in a couple of free agents. You've got some cap room. Morgan Riley won't be back. I think he's going to Vancouver, which I think is a great move for Vancouver because they're going to bring in a veteran guy that can help their young decor, the Zeev Williams and guys like that are coming up. Morgan Riley's a pro.
And so
Morgan Riley's been an absolute warrior for the Toronto Maple Leafs and given everything that he's got. His game is a skating and a mobility game, and he's just too old. He came into the league young. He's played a lot of minutes.
Johnny, do we are we off base here and going Pettersson for Riley just seems like the natural play here?
No, they wouldn't. Vancouver wouldn't do it.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, no. I don't know, man.
You might have to give them an asset to take Riley.
Yeah, but like,
no, I'm serious. That's not gonna. There's teams that'll overpay for Pettersson.
Do you really think that?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I do. I do. I really do, and I think he's a useful player, but he's got to get into a good room. He's like my thoughts on JT Miller.
Yeah,
I think Vancouver screwed up when they picked JT Miller over Horvat. They signed Miller, let Horvat walk.
Okay. Yeah, bad call. You picked the wrong
bad call. JT Miller's I don't think he's a team guy. He goes to New York. That team was talked about as an Eastern Conference finalist this year. Didn't even make the playoffs.
So
who's your captain?
Listen, something else that I'm just going to say when we talk about defensemen, we're going to get there for free agency. I just want to bring it up now. Jacob Trouba. I'm telling you right now, that is who we need to have.
Sure.
Okay. So press pause. Yeah. But
you need guys like that. You need
before we jump.
Call me crazy, but what about the nut bar that ran Matthews?
Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yes.
Every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Now he'll never come to play here. He doesn't want to play here, but that's.
Oh, I don't know about that.
No, he's already said. He said that in the previous free agency run that he wasn't interested.
But you know.
But hold on.
The type of guy. And he's a stand-up guy. He did that. He was hurt, and he played that game. And then he didn't throw a punch.
And then he answered the bell. He
let Domi beat the shit out of him. He didn't throw a punch.
100%. He took the beating because it's the code, right?
The right thing to do.
Yeah. So the one guy that I think if I was going to give a pick for a coach who I think is a little under the radar, you went with the Denver coach. I'm going to say UC Ackles, who's the coach right now, the Finnish coach for the Kitchener Rangers.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched the Kitchener Rangers,
he had a pedigree coming over here. He coached 4 or 5 years in their top league in Finland, and I don't disagree. And you know what's nice is I think, and Jake has proven, the one thing that scares me a little bit, and I'm a Steve Sullivan fan.
I think he'll be around.
Steve and Chayka have a history. Like when Chayka ran Phoenix, Steve was, I think, the GM in Tucson of the Roadrunners in the American League, and was on the bench. He did this. He's been the power play coach here already. He's already on the staff. I don't think he's the head coach that you need, but we will see. We got to see how the roster is constructed. I don't even know the free agent list. I think no, it's not. I think some of the guys that were going to be there have already signed. But like I said earlier, okay,
we got lots of 3s and 4s in the defense.
Everybody is available. Okay, yes. You've got teams like Florida and Tampa that didn't have any success. There's going to be moves made there. There's guys on both of those rosters I would overpay for to bring in culture guys, Sam Bennett guys, Sam Reinhart guys,
Bennett, yes, Reinhart.
Yeah. Just more, guys that are going to go out They're not going to ask you for too much money, but they're going to go out and they're going to bust it every shift. Guy, you want to. Toronto doesn't have a guy like Tampa.
Listen, we don't. John,
he was a menace in the playoffs. He almost won that series by himself.
Pick Cirelli, pick Reinhart, pick Bennett. We don't have any of them. We don't have any of those guys.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about Hagel.
Oh, Brandon Hagel. Hagel, Cirelli, same guy. Like, we don't have any of those guys. None.
They'll punch you in the face. They'll penalty kill. They'll score in overtime. They'll run your goalie.
You know who they are, John?
Spear you. Yeah.
You know who they are? They're Steve Thomas.
Yeah.
That's who they are. They're Steve Thomas. We don't have Steve Thomas. We don't have Darcy Tucker.
I think I think
that's what we need.
Yeah.
Oh, God bless
and it's proven what teams are winning, and they have guys like Manson on Colorado. He's the butt end that he gives.
Oh,
wow. He's like, well, it wasn't intentional. I meant to punch him in the face. Love it.
And you know what? Can we give a shout out to Steve Thomas? Born in England. How many English hockey players have we had over the years in the NHL? I love Steve Thomas. Good for Steve Thomas.
There's one that I played against over there. He was drafted. He was drafted either by Edmonton or Calgary, and then didn't report. And then a couple of years later went to camp with the other one. And he was Scottish, and he was the all-time leader.
Great man.
Tony Hand. Tony Hand. And he was.
I bet he was tough as nails.
No, it wasn't. He score. I mean, he would. He wouldn't back down. He played hard. He wasn't very big, but he was the Gretzky back in the British League. So he'd come over, and they probably would have sent him to the minors. He wouldn't have been ready. And it's like, I'm going. There's a bidding war for him. He played in Murrayfield when I was over there. Murrayfield Racers in Edinburgh. And won the scoring title and was the captain of the national team and stuff like that. But anyway, lots to unpack. We've gone way longer than we wanted to. But let's. What we'll do, John, is we'll try to get Nolan, and we'll do something around the draft, either going in, because there's going to be a lot happen between now and the draft.
I think they're
going to probably have a coach. There's going to be an indication on whether they're going to try to move on from some of the veteran guys. Willie is an interesting one to me. When you talk about culture, he's just kind of got that willy-nilly, surfer.
Can you win with him? That's the question. Can
you turn him into some assets that'll help you win either now or in 2 or 3 years? Yeah, he's a top end player. He's got a high level of skill. I see him in a place like, I think Willie Nylander's thriving in a place like, honestly, Carolina, because of the leadership and Brenda Moore and the way, you know what I mean? And look at Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall is playing the best hockey of his career, and he's 35 years old.
Can we talk about the renaissance of Taylor Hall?
Yeah.
Taylor Hall right now might be one of the 5 best players in the league.
Yeah, and that's Brindamore, and that's the culture. You talked about that team and the way that they go about their business.
Everything right. Right.
Hey, their GM is John Chayka.
Well,
he is. He's not even a hockey guy.
Well, their GM hasn't been kicked out of the league. Yeah. So, last question before we go, and then we're out. And I've wrestled with this question, and I mean this honestly. And if you've watched this show for any length of time, you know my feelings on Mitch Marner. It's not even in question. Did we pick the wrong guy to get rid of?
I said it earlier. You know what? It's a question that'll be out there forever, and there'll never be the right answer, because if you, like I said, if you took Matthews and put him on that Vegas roster and got Marner here, is that going to be much different? I don't think so. I think Marner would have struggled with the roster that was around him as Matthews did here, and I think Matthews would have gone to a new. All of a sudden you can go to the grocery store.
Jack Eichel's fired and passes, and he's putting in 60.
Right.
So.
Right. Right. So again, I don't blame Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner did everything that was in with Mitch. Mitch Marner is has a contract, and he has a union, and they have a collective agreement, and the agreement said that everything that Mitch Marner did, he was entitled to do.
Correct.
Toronto, like I said, should not have given him that opportunity to do it. Right. And there would have been a way to prevent all that from happening. Nothing you can do about that now. As Ricky from the Trailer Park Boys would say, it's
shout out to Ricky.
Water under the fridge. But anyway, that's what we're looking at. It's exciting. You know what? All this stuff kind of made the season better, right? I'm more excited now than it would have been if they fell back to sixth, and then they picked Doug Armstrong to recycle GM to come over. He's here. They lose the lottery and go down, and then Boston gets the pick, and now it's like, what do we do,
Johnny?
Right now, there's 3 or 4 different ways you can operate and move forward, and we can speculate, but we're just going to have to stay tuned and see. Thanks to Bjorn. Thanks to Don Cherry Sports Grill. We'll be back around draft time, and it's exciting times. Good to see you, bud.
You too, brother. Go Leafs,
go.
I'm
up there, by the way. I'm at the day that the first World Cup games in Toronto. I'm not going to that, but that's the 12th, I think. I'm going to the Blue Jay Yankee game that night, and then I'm at the Canadian Open in Caledon on Saturday and Sunday all day for the.
I might be there for that.
Oh wow, perfect. Well, we'll definitely catch up, and then I'm in a golf tournament on the Monday at Blue Springs in Acton. So I'm kind of there Thursday to Monday. It was a nice course back in the day.
Blue Springs.
I haven't played it in forever, but anyway. Thanks, Don Cherries. Thanks, Bjorn. We'll talk soon.
Go Leafs, go.